So Thalia and the Gitrog monster. Now first off, I actually have no idea how these two came together. Regardless, let's take a look at them. Give a card review for them. Or for it, as it's one card, not a partner card. In any case, it's a 4 mana cost green, black, white, abzan color and 1 generic for a legendary creature, human, frog, horror 4/4 with a bunch of abilities. First strike, Death Touch is a really good combo that is gonna make it a really good blocker and a really good attacker. You don't want to run into this in combat. You may play an additional land on each of your turns, that's a Gitrog's ability. Creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped, which is just straight up Thalia's ability. Creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. And the last ability, whenever this thing attacks, sacrifice a creature or land, then draw a card. So yeah, it really is a combination of the two, being both a value engine and a stax card altogether. And on paper, that's actually kinda good. Now the ability to draw cards like the original Gitrog monster is not equal, you're only gaining 1 card when it attacks if you sacrifice a land or creature. But how good is it actually? Thalia's ability have never been that amazing, it's quite decent and okay. The best thing that can basically come out of this is if you get it into play turn 1 with a mana crypt if you're the starting player, basically making all your opponents unable to do anything for a turn cycle, as all their lands will come into play tapped, unless they have mana crypts of their own of course. But a turn later Thalia isn't that impactful. It's not useless, but it's also a bit narrow. It hurts Kiki-Jiki combos, but after that it doesn't really affect a huge portion of the metagame currently. But it's not a useless stax effect, it's just not the best thing you could find. And I more often find this to be a filler card than anything else, when you're trying to assemble a stax deck and such. Now a big problem here is that you can't really get it into play with a mana crypt early in the game. You need more. You need a lot of colored mana, black and green as well. And the mana crypt will only help you with that one colorless pip. So most consistently you're gonna get this into play turn 3 or so, maybe turn 2. But then honestly it could be a little bit too late for this kind of stax effect. That is, once again, a bit narrow. This could still be built like a stax deck of such, with various creatures, with Thalia and the Gitrog monster at the helm, something you throw down a little bit later in the game. First you play one of those staple stax effects gonna lock down the game in a really good way, and then eventually you get your big card draw engine into play. But is it actually a really big card draw engine? I mean, if we compare it to Tymna the Weaver and Sidar of Kondar, that are on the same exact color identities, then Tymna is gonna draw more cards than this thing. Also, you're losing a land or a creature when you try to draw a card with this thing. Tymna, with Sidar, basically draws 2 to 3 cards every turn cycle without losing anything. But compared to those two, you do get a small stax effect from the big frog. But we should of course also mention that this could be a land orientated deck as well, and Crucible of Worlds and Stripine, that's fun. Especially when you're also getting extra land drops. And this is a good way to negate the land loss from the card draw that you get. And with all the land and creature tutors that exist, this is something we could easily build towards. It's very consistent, able to get this effect going for you if you're running this. So as a commander, it absolutely has some cool things going for it. I don't think it's a great abzan stax commander compared to the other abzan options you already have. But it is unique and a little bit more fun, maybe. It has a smaller orientation towards lands. But I really like the idea here. You have a small card draw effect and you have a small stax effect all in one card. It's just that it's also a little bit expensive. 4 mana is actually quite a lot. If this was actually a free 2 and you would drop the colorless pip, it would be a lot stronger. But what about having this inside the 99? Let's say Cece, Weather Light Captain for example. She's hungry for legendary creatures with a lot of color identities on them, preferably on a lower CMC cost though. This is a little bit tricky to tutor out for with Cece. But I should mention that I have never tutored for Thalia Heretic Qatar with my commander Cece. It's something that I cost if I have it in my hand if I naturally draw into it. So I don't see a world where I would tutor for Thalia and the Gitrog monster if I could anyways. So having that expensive cost making it hard to tutor for it isn't really a big deal for it. And CC are looking for random legendaries with random hate bear effects, with random value effects on them, and yeah, this Gitrog monster Thalia actually fits the bill for that quite well. But I don't think cEDH is built towards sacrificing her board state a little bit here and there. Like sure, you could sacrifice a dork, sacrifice maybe one land to draw a card. Like there are games where cEDH don't get to do her thing. Oppo Agent and Draenei Magistrate are quite annoying. So this could definitely be like a way of digging through the deck, drawing cards when cEDH doesn't work. And due to the fact that I have Thalia Heretic Qatar inside the deck and I've never really tutored for it, I just see this as a straight upgrade. Sure, I do lose the ability to mana crypt Thalia into play, but I do gain a value engine alternative. And it will make cEDH a little bit more resilient, so to say. Not so commander orientated as she is quite orientated. Like cEDH is really commander orientated, and having cards that make her a little bit more resilient, able to play the game without cEDH, that's good for her. So in the end, I actually think this is a good card for cEDH. Like it's not great, it's not gonna make her enormously better, but it is like a small upgrade. The part where you have to sacrifice your lands and dorks, however, is a little bit annoying, but it's okay. It's worth for digging through the deck and finding answers to get out of the whatever stacks hold your opponents have on you. But cEDH is not the only commander that could utilize this Gitrog monster. I mean, Tymna are sometimes building stacks creature decks. And this is definitely a big attacker. Like, if you have Tymna in play and you're attacking with the Gitrog monster, Thalia version here, I don't see people blocking this. Or well, they could chunk block it with like small dorks, but still. So I could see a world where other creature-orientated attack decks are interested in this big toad. So in the end, I actually really like it. It's not game warping, it's not big, it's not impactful, it's just a small, decent card overall, nothing wrong with it, it's just okay. And I could see a world where decks are including it. I think I actually am gonna include it into my cEDH deck. Just replace the old Thalia version that is doing the same thing. And I could see a world where someone is actually using this as a commander for a cool abzan stax creature land loop graveyard deck. And it looks fun, like you have attack in here, you have sacrifice of lands and creatures, you have card draw, you have stacks, and you have land synergy. You have a lot of things inside this commander, so the deck could be quite fun to pilot with all those different mechanics. That's it for me for this time. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. More card reviews are coming up. See you then, guys.